Hi, welcome again to the NASA Angular Consulting. Now, today we will be describing how composting is done. And perhaps we can ask ourselves, what is composting? And composting or compost is the use of organic materials to make manure. And the organic materials we are talking about, they are all the materials that can decompose well, and so we are exempting things like polythenes and plastics, but we are including things like the banana leaves, we are including banana stems, we are including all other leaves that can decompose. And now, thank you, and we are going to first know the importance of using compost in our farms. And uh, behind us is a compost heap, and we are going to get to how it is being made and the importance of using compost in our farms. It is one, we get to increase the soil biology life, that is the microorganisms increase, and we are talking about things like earthworms, we are talking things about those organisms that break down the soil. The other thing about compost, the use of compost in the farms increases the capability of the soil to hold uh, hold water, one, and the other thing, it holds well, it is nutrient during the time of application. So and the other thing, continuous use of compost in the farms helps in reduction of the cost, because as you can see, we are using the locally available materials which are all over in our places, and thus we are going to reduce the cost. And the other thing, the continuous use also will help in reduction of the inorganic fertilizer usage in our farms, which is a bit higher. Uh, Thank you for that. Now we are going to look at how do we make compost in our farms, or how can we make it best. And there are materials that we require when making compost in our farms. And first, we require dry matter. The other thing we require is the green matter, and I will be explaining the use. And we need undecomposed manure. And one, for the undecomposed manure, we are using it to increase microorganisms that will help in breakdown of these organic materials. The green material will add into nitrogen into the soil and other nutrients, and the organic material adds to carbon, and we get the carbon nitrogen ratio, the one that makes ensures that the soil has been made well. Thank you. Now, when it comes to making compost in our farms, there are two ways. There is the heap method, the one we have used here, and there is the compost pit. And in the pit method, we discourage that, because when you use a pit and the rain comes or falls down too much, what happens? There can be fronts, and the manure will take longer to do what to compost. The other thing, when we use compost pits, you will require a lot of labor if you cannot do the pits yourself, and turning also becomes tiresome. But in a compost heap, in our case, the one we are going to learn about today, it is essential because and useful for any farmer, because it is all about heaping up the organic materials, as we can see. And the first thing you need to do is a good selection for the compost heap. And a good selection means it will be a place under sun, under a shade. The other thing, it will be a place where there is a room for turning, because we require to be turning the compost day after day or a month after month. The other thing, it is important that where we are making the compost heap, there will be no service runoff, and that is the best site. And in our case, that is what we have done. We have created our heap where there is room for turning, where there is shade, and where no service runoff could lead to destruction of our compost heap. Now let us get to how do we now arrange these layers. Now in heap method, we arrange our organic materials in layers, and we begin with the dry matter we talked about. And it is important that the dry matter contain more of the materials. You don't use one material. The other thing, the second layer will be of green material. Then we get to the layer of manure, that is the undecomposed manure. And if you don't have manure in your farm, then you can use the topsoil, which has microorganisms. And afterwards, you then add hundash, which will help to send away the burnt smell in our compost, and even we'll add some calcium into our compost. Then you do a repeat of the same, the dry matter, then the green matter, the undecomposed manure, and then we get to the hundash. Now you have made your layers, maybe more of and just put more layers as with the availability of the materials you are using, and it will be good. After doing that, it is important, if the dry matter is soon dry, it is important you want some water. And I say some because if you want excess water, it will take a long period to decompose. So add a bit of the water to the dry material. You need also to chop the materials. It will be good when you do so. And after making your compost heap, the other thing you need to remember is about the thermostic. And the thermostic will help in determining or knowing the progress of your compost. You will know whether it is dry, you will know whether it is getting to decompose. And what you do, you just remove the thermostic from your heap. And if you measure the warmth from your thermostic, you will know whether it is decomposing or not. That is after 2 weeks. It should have started decomposing. This thermostic will also help in determining the moisture content in your compost. And it is important, anytime you remove, just return it to where it was. The other thing to note, it is important to cover your compost, and we are using locally available materials. These are banana leaves we have used, and they are important because you need not go and buy. And if they dry up, you can just chop others and add into your compost. And that is the way to go in making a compost heap in your farm. Thank you and welcome.